Here is the recap of the first, second, and third seasons of From. Somewhere in this world there is a town from which it is impossible to get out. If you walk or drive on the road out of it, you are bound to go back in. Over the years, people have gotten there and stayed there because they couldn't get out. However, there was always another problem. Every night some kind of immortal creatures came out onto the streets. They looked like humans, but were not. They mercilessly hunted the inhabitants of the town and brutally killing them. The citizens were used to hiding in dens and created small shelters, but death still happened. All this went on for an unknown amount of time, until Boyd arrived in the town with his wife and son Ellis. Boyd accidentally found some stones that serve as talismans. If you hang them in the house and close all the doors and windows, the monsters can't get in. But the monsters also have intelligence. They can take any form, and every night they ask the residents to let them in, begging for help. Soon the townspeople have rules. If through someone's fault a person dies, the guilty party is locked in a crate for the night, and where they will be eaten by the monsters. Also in the settlement, there are two camps, which although dislike each other, but live in peace. One is in the center of the city, and each family lives in a separate house with its own talisman. The other group has settled in a huge house and live in a commune where all things are common. The center is run by Boyd, and the country house by Donna. In the present day, the main character's family is on a road trip. Father Jim, Mother Tabitha, and two children, Julie and Ethan. Suddenly a tree falls in front of them, and they see ominous ravens. Soon the family stumbles into a small town where the citizens look at them with bitter compassion. The citizens realize that it will be hard for the newcomers to believe all this and prepare to tell them the truth. However, the family begins to run in circles trying to get out of the town and soon get into an accident colliding with another car. Sheriff Boyd and his deputy Kenny first take one of the injured to the hospital, then send the others to the common house. The main characters realize that they will not be able to carry the badly injured Ethan out of the transport before dark. Nurse Christie, the sheriff, the boy and his father Jim remain in the overturned van. Boyd closes all the exits and hangs up a talisman in hopes that it will help keep the monsters at bay. He tells the newcomer what's going on here, and that's when they show up outside. Meanwhile, in the common house, the residents also tell the newcomers what's going on. At night in the hospital, a strange woman, Sarah, kills one newcomer for some reason after asking for forgiveness. Then the voices in her head order her to open the door to the hospital, and she goes home, where her brother Nathan sees the traces of blood and realizes what she has done. Meanwhile, monsters enter the clinic and brutally murder everyone there. Soon morning comes, everyone in the overturned van is left alive, and little Ethan manages to be saved. However, the child begins to see a boy in white in the woods. The local Saint Father Kotri informs the family of the main characters that they will have to make a choice: live in the center of town in their home, or join Donna's commune. Jim, Tabitha, and little Ethan choose the town, but their daughter Julie, being a rebellious teenager, decides to stay in the communal house because she likes the sheriff's son Ellis who lives there. Plus, we learn that Jim and Tabitha were planning to divorce because of the recent death of their young child. Also, Jade, another newcomer who survived the accident, finally comes to his senses and thinks it's all some kind of prank or game. However, after a while he starts to notice the strangeness of the place and realizes that it's all true. After that, Jade settles in the center of town with Deputy Kenny and his mother. We are introduced to another resident of the township, Victor. He behaves like a child and is the oldest inhabitant of the settlement. We don't know when it happened, but one day monsters killed the whole town, and Victor was the only survivor. Throughout the season, the man will do various strange things, and we also learn that he, like Ethan, sees a boy in white. Soon he shows Ethan strange trees. If you go in there or throw any object, it will be teleported to a random location. We also see that Victor has drawn sketches throughout his life that either predict the future or narrate the past. However, no one takes Victor seriously. Sarah has a seizure, and the voices in her head tell her that she must kill little Ethan. The woman kidnaps the boy, but her brother tries to stop his sister. As a result of the struggle, Sarah kills Nathan. This is witnessed by Father Khatri. He ties her up and locks her in his basement so that she will not be executed by the locals. Sarah tells him about the voices, and at first he thinks the woman is a cuckoo, but she proves their existence when she tells Khatri about things she couldn't possibly know. Jade sees a strange symbol in the cellar and a squashed monster that disappears like a hallucination. He tells Kenny about it, and Kenny tells him that the town has a lot of strange things going on. For example, the town itself is located in several places at once, as all the people came to it from different parts of America. Suddenly, Jade hears interference in the radio and decides to create a stronger transmitter to contact the outside world. Together with Jim, they gather different parts and build an antenna on a hill, but still receive only interference. Also, Jade again sees hallucinations in the face of mangled soldiers of the American Civil War, causing the man to think he is going crazy. Soon, Kenny's mother Tien Chen notices that Jade is drawing a strange symbol and shows him an old sketchbook with the same drawings. In this notebook, he finds a photo that shows little Victor. Afterwards, Jade realizes that he is not going crazy. Jim and Tabitha conclude that they are dead and in purgatory. They notice that in the city, even though the electrical appliances are working, the wires through which electricity is supposed to flow have no strands. In other words, it simply can't be. Soon Tabitha starts digging a hole in the basement trying to find out where the wires go. Toward the end of the season, she stumbles upon a solid surface and begins digging it out with a pickaxe. Boyd suffers from the fact that in the past he had to kill his wife, who went crazy, and because of this, his son does not speak to him. The man pulls himself together and decides to do something to save the locals. He wants to go deep into the forest, taking with him a tent and one talisman, in the hope that he will find help. Soon the priest tells Boyd about Sarah and her voices, confirming her words. Khatri suggests that the sheriff take her with him, as she is clearly connected to this place and may be the key to everything that is going on. Julie meets Fatima, who is Ellis's lover. A sympathy develops between the three of them. As I recall, in this commune, everything is common. One night, one of the inhabitants of the country house is manipulated by the monsters and opens a window. After that, a real massacre begins. Of the significant characters, only the priest Khatri dies. Meanwhile, Victor and Julie flee into the woods. They climb into a teleporting tree and are transported to the very cellar. Boyd and Sarah head into the woods to find a way out of the place. After walking for a few hours, they come across a strange tree with bottles hanging from it. After knocking one down, Sarah has another seizure, and Boyd has to pitch a tent. When she regains consciousness, he shows her the note that was in the bottle. It is dated 1864. Sarah says that a new voice has appeared in her head, telling them not to go any further, as there are worse things than monsters in the forest, and also says a phrase that hints to us that it is the voice of Boyd's dead wife. Suddenly, the tent is attacked by an unknown force, after which a bright light comes on and Boyd hears a loud sound. However, when they come out, they see that the whole forest is covered with webs. Boyd is visited by hallucinations of his wife and is then attacked by spiders and bites the sheriff. Soon the travelers see a lighthouse from which the strange sound comes. On the way, Boyd becomes quite ill. A boy in white appears and tells Sarah that it is safe in the hollow of a nearby tree. She pushes the sheriff there, after which Boyd finds himself in a bottomless well from which it is impossible to get out. At this time, Jade and Jim are going to build a huge antenna on top of the country house, and all the residents decide to help them with it. After completing the construction, Jim turns on his radio and hears a voice addressing him by name. He informs him that Tobita should not have dug that hole. The man hurries home, but at that moment, the bottom of the pit collapses and a woman falls into the cave. She sees that the power wire doesn't really lead anywhere. Victor suddenly appears and informs her that it is not safe here, as the monsters sleep in this place. He shows their drawings and also says that the boy in white told them where to find her, and they need to get out of here soon. At this point, just before sunset, a whole busload of people pull into the town. This is the end of the first season. Let's pause for a moment. Here you can like this video, subscribe to my channel, and write some comments. Thanks. Before the bus pulls into the town, Elgin, one of the passengers, has an ominous dream and asks the driver not to go any further, but they don't listen to him and stop at a diner. The rest of the town realizes how difficult it will be to explain to so many people about where they are. So Donna threatens them with guns and forces them into the diner. However, some escape. Meanwhile, Jim tries to rescue his wife, who has fallen into a hole in the basement and is helped by the new arrivals. Soon the house collapses, and the others decide to take their time with the rescue, as it is soon night and the monsters will come out. When the monsters arrive, they kill several of the escaped newcomers as well as the local bartender. Meanwhile, Victor leads Tabitha through the tunnels under the city. It turns out that this is where the monsters live, but they sleep during the day. Tabitha sees a small child in a cage in the cave. Soon they come to the surface and hide in Victor's secret hideout. Boyd is in the well for some time, but he cannot get up on his own. Soon someone throws him a rope, and when he climbs out, he sees a weak old man chained to the wall. He tells him that there is something worse in the forest than the monsters that come out at night. Suddenly, the melody coming from the music box starts to play. The old man says that Boyd needs to get out soon, but first he asks him to kill him, ending his suffering. The main character wants to free him, but when the music stops, the old man scratches him, puts his bloody hand to the wound and says, "My blood, now your blood," after which he dies. Boyd takes a torch from the wall and finds himself in the same room but already destroyed. Soon some dog appears and it leads the man to Victor's hideout, where he is hiding with Tabitha. In the morning, Boyd discovers some worms under his skin, just like the chained old man. It turns out that one of the passengers on the bus was a girl named Marielle, who worked as a pediatrician. We learn that she is Christie's lover. When she disappeared, Marielle thought that her friend simply ran away, so she became depressed and began to use various illegal substances. In the future, she will steal medicines from the local clinic, but when Christie catches her, Marielle decides to quit. Jade learns that Victor has something to do with the symbol he keeps seeing and tries to talk to him. At first, Victor is not willing to share any information with Jade, but eventually admits that the diary that Jade found in the previous season used to belong to his friend Christopher. However, when people start trying to find out more about the place, an accident occurs and everyone but Victor is killed. During this time, Tabitha begins to see hallucinations of children and tries to figure out what is going on here. Soon she goes to the cave and is surrounded by these children repeating the same word, Ankui. That's when Jade shows up and the kids disappear. Tabitha tells the man that she saw the symbol from the diary in the caves. Jade goes there where he sees the hallucination again. The same children on pedestals looking up and repeating Ankui. And at the top is a hole in roots replicating the same symbol. Kenny finds Sarah in the church and calls Boyd. Turns out the girl went into the tree after the man, but for some reason ended up here. Kenny is angry at the sheriff for letting Sarah live after all she's done. He thinks she should be sent to a crate where she'll be eaten by monsters. Boyd says that the rules have changed, and Sarah is too valuable to kill since she has a connection to this place for some reason. And soon the whole town finds out that Sarah is alive. Boyd begins to experience unpleasant hallucinations, as well as pain caused by the parasites under his skin. He even takes Kenny to the very ruins where he met the old man. But no one believes him, thinking that he has simply gone cuckoo. After a while, people begin to realize that the food will soon run out because of the new arrivals. Distrust begins to grow, and while trying to calm the people, Ellis is stabbed. He is taken to the clinic at night, and the main characters realize that due to blood loss, the guy may die. The same blood type turns out to be his father's, but Boyd does not want to transfuse it to his son, as he is afraid that the parasites under his skin will be transmitted to him. No one believes Boyd again, but suddenly everyone notices the parasites. Boyd decides to take a risk. He wants to pass these worms to the monsters outside. The man goes outdoors, injures one monster, and the parasites crawl over to him. after which he drops dead, which was previously thought impossible, as no weapons would take them. Boyd returns to the clinic and manages to transfuse his already clean blood to his son. We also learn that Fatima is pregnant, but it can't be, as the doctors have told her she can't have children. However, Donna assures Fatima that this place does incredible things. Eventually, Ellis learns of his lover's pregnancy. The main characters decide to perform an autopsy on the dead monster. They hope to understand how the parasites in the blood were able to kill it. However, it turns out that the monsters have no blood at all, and all their organs have dried up a long time ago. The only fluid in their bodies is bile. They collect it in a bottle and wet it with bullets to see if it can kill other monsters at night. Meanwhile, something strange begins to happen in the city. First of all, it's fall, and before it was summer all the time. And secondly, some of the residents are having strange dreams, involving the music box. The main characters see cicadas appear on the corpse of a monster. After that, they're non-stop chirping in the town. Soon, people's dreams take on a more sinister color and affect reality. One girl even dies. It's as if she was torn apart by a monster while she was sleeping. People realize that it is no longer safe for them to sleep. Tabitha tries to ask Victor about the children she's been seeing. The man takes her to a graveyard of cars that he has brought here over the years. Opening the trunk of one of the cars, Victor shows Tabitha the drawings and remembers that as a child he had a sister who disappeared the day everyone in town died. He believes it all happened because his mother went to a certain tower to save the children. In her view, it would have helped all the people get out. Tabitha realizes that she has also seen this tower in her dreams. Just to remind you, this is the same lighthouse from the end of Season 1. Now Tabitha is also determined to get to the tower and save the children she sees in her hallucinations. All the newcomers have accepted the new rules of the place, except for one guy named Randall. He believes that he is being lied to by everyone, and in fact the leaders of the town are hiding the whole truth. He soon meets Jim, who after the house collapse and radio signal at the end of the first season, has also started to question the nature of the place. Jim thinks they are actually being watched, and Randall quickly picks up on his idea, elevating it to an absolute. At first, they try to find out more information from the most suspicious personalities in the town, and then Randall goes off the deep end. He believes that Donna and Boyd are here to control the common people while someone is experimenting on them. So the guy kidnaps Donna, ties her to a tree, and plans to watch her at night. Supposedly, no one's going to lay a finger on her. Randall is stopped by Boyd, and since it's getting dark, they all hide together in an overturned trailer. Boyd decides to try out the new bullets he soaked in the monster's bile, but it doesn't work. Suddenly, a melody from the box starts playing. The main characters panic and realize that they have to get out of here. Donna, Boyd, and Jim escape, but Randall is attacked by cicadas and falls into a coma. At the same time, the same thing happens to Marielle and Julie. Throughout the season, newcomer Elgin tries to remember the dream he had before he came to this town. Everything seems familiar to him, but at the same time so far away. Soon he learns of Fatima's pregnancy, and this is when he finally remembers everything. In his dream, the boy in white recites a nursery rhyme. Here they come for 3, unless you stop the melody. Boyd believes that when he gave the parasites to that monster, he unleashed some kind of entity that can kill people in their sleep as well. The only way out is to destroy the music box, but he doesn't know where it is. Meanwhile, Sarah is determined to do something to help the people of the city, and asks Boyd to take her to the woods. They come to a ruined building where the main character met an old man earlier. Sarah begins to hear Randall, Marielle, and Julie screaming, as well as Melody. She knows where the music box is, but for some reason it is not in that location. Not knowing what they should do next, the main characters head back to town. Ellis realizes that after all that has happened, his beloved Fatima is beginning to give up. So he asks her to marry him. During the simple ceremony, Ellis gives a speech, and Boyd figures out how to get back to the very place where he met the old man. He finds the torch he took from there and heads for the ruins. The lit torch actually takes Boyd to the place, but this time he sees Randall, Marielle and Julie chained to the wall. The melody starts playing again, and some entity in the form of his wife appears. She tries to dissuade Boyd from destroying the music box and hints that this whole place feeds not on the suffering of the people living in the city, but on hope. Their deaths are inevitable. If the man destroys the music box, he will simply prolong their suffering. However, Boyd breaks the music box, and then Randall, Marielle, and Julie come to their senses, and the cicadas in town fall silent. A little earlier, Tabitha asks Victor to take her to the lighthouse. The man doesn't know where it is, but he knows how to get there. He leads her to a tree with bottles and tells her that a hole in the trunk will take her to the tower. This is what actually happens. Tabitha goes up to the top. Suddenly, a boy in white appears, apologizes, and throws her off the lighthouse. A few days later, she regains consciousness in the hospital and realizes that she has somehow left that cursed place. This is the end of the second season. Some time passes in the township. Because of the cold weather, all the crops start to rot and people realize that they won't have enough to eat. That same night, monsters release animals from the barn, and the townspeople try to save at least one. Boyd and Kenny's mom go into the barn and hang a talisman to keep the monsters out. However, they didn't realize that the monsters were already waiting for them inside. They kill the old woman in front of Boyd and say that this way they want to break his will. A little earlier, Jim decides to go in search of his wife. Together with Kenny, they stumble upon an unexplored place with several ramshackle houses and strange scarecrows. There they discover a large amount of vegetables growing by the river and bring them to town. At this point, Kenny learns that his mother has died. Soon Jim starts receiving phone calls from his son Thomas, who died when he was still a child. The man realizes that this is just a hallucination, but one day the phone is picked up by Ethan. A voice warns the boy that they will soon need to help Tabitha. Let's go back in time a little bit. Tabitha finds herself in the real world. She realizes that no one will simply believe her story and will most likely send her to a mental institution. So she escapes from the clinic. She begins to see a boy in white and follows him. Soon the woman discovers on the lunchbox Victor gave her his home address. She finds this house and meets his father named Henry. At first, the man thinks it's some kind of prank. But when he heard about the children who needed to be rescued from the tower, he believed it. It turns out that many years ago, his wife began to see hallucinations and started drawing pictures. On them, she depicted the very town that she finds herself in after a while with her son and daughter. The woman claimed she was chosen to save the children from the tower. In the backyard of the house, Tabitha sees a tree with bottles and tells Henry that it's the same kind she went through to get to the tower. Henry informs her that it is a replica, and the original was created by his wife in a neighboring town. They head there, but on the way they have a car accident. The main characters come to their senses already in the ambulance, and suddenly the car stops. It turns out that a tree has fallen in front of them. Tabitha realizes that soon they will all get to the township. She tries to explain to the medics and the policewoman what they need to do, but they don't believe the crazy woman. The driver pulls over as there is a body lying on the road. The medics try to figure out what's going on, but the monsters kill them. Boyd shows up with Randall and the sheriff saves Tabitha and Henry. However, he has to leave Randall behind. However, the monsters do not kill him, but leave Randall crippled to further frighten the people. Meanwhile, a new police officer named Acosta escapes from the monsters and shoots at anything that moves. She accidentally kills a woman standing in a window, which causes her weapon to be taken away, and she is despised. Meanwhile, Fatima feels strange because of her pregnancy and can't eat normal food. She finds a pile of rotten vegetables and realizes that these are the only foods she can digest. This scares Fatima, but the old woman Tilly calms the woman down. She decides to tell her fortune on tarot cards, but Tilly fails to do so because of a raven that has suddenly appeared. Fatima soon realizes that she is also attracted to the taste of human blood when she was with the corpse of a previously dead woman. Fatima decides to tell Ellis and Boyd about the weirdness. As there was an ultrasound machine in the ambulance, they decide to check if everything is all right with the baby. However, it turns out that Fatima is not pregnant. Tabitha reunites with her family and tells them what happened to her. Soon all the townspeople find out about it and start accusing the woman of doing nothing to help them. After learning about the tree with bottles, the townspeople want to enter it themselves in order to get to the lighthouse and get out of this cursed place. However, the first lucky person to get inside teleports into the wall of the pool and dies. After that, there's no one left to repeat the feat. Meanwhile, Henry is finally reunited with his son, Victor. At first, they were afraid to meet, as it had been many years. But in the end, all went well. Victor realizes that the changes in the climate of this place are a bad sign. He tries to remember why all the people died when he was a child. So he digs up the stuff of the dead, and together with Sarah, he wants to sort it all out. Suddenly, he remembers that there was a man named Christopher, who was also connected to this place, as well as some of the townspeople. Christopher had a doll that he always talked to, and according to Victor, it knows the whole truth, except that it is located in the caves of monsters. Together with his father, he goes there and finds the doll. However, it does not speak as expected. Eventually, Victor remembers that it was not the doll that spoke, but the boy in white. But the boy does not want to share any information with them. The angry man goes to the tree with the bottles and tries to cut it down. The boy in white appears and asks him not to do that. He can't tell them the whole truth, as they have to figure it out for themselves. Fatima starts to go cuckoo because she feels that she is pregnant, although the ultrasound did not find anything. She decides not to eat rotten vegetables anymore, but this only makes things worse. Fatima seems to be controlled by someone and kills old Tilly. Ellis and Boyd hide her in the woods while they try to figure out what to do next. Meanwhile, Elgin continues to have strange dreams in which he sees a dried-up woman in a kimono. Soon these dreams begin to manifest themselves in real life. The guy finds an old Polaroid and the pictures from it tell him what to do. He drains himself of some blood for Fatima. Afterwards, he kidnaps her and takes her to a secret room that is in the cellar. Elgin thinks that the child will help everyone get out of this place. The guy locks Fatima in the cellar and gives her bottles of his blood so that the baby will grow faster, which actually happens. Randall, Mariel, and Julie have recovered from what happened in the previous season, but each of them still has their own issues. For example, Randall still sees cicadas, and Julie keeps hearing screams in her head. One day, they accidentally stumble upon the ruins where they were chained together last season. Julie realizes that she doesn't hear the screams near the place, so she later returns there with her brother. She enters the ruins and is transported back in time. She is the one who threw Boyd the rope down the well. She is then transported to the tunnels, where she hears the voice of her mother and Victor. After that, she begins to feel tormented again. Ethan manages to call for help. Julie is pulled out of the ruins and comes to her senses. Later, the girl chats with her brother and thinks she can use the ruins to change the past. Jade learns about the tree with the bottles and pulls out notes with some numbers on them. He also learns from Boyd about the second tree with bottles that they found in the woods with Sarah in Season 1. Eventually, Jade collects all the pieces of paper with numbers, but there is no logic in them. At first, he thought they were dates when the notes were put in the bottles, but the numbers there turned out to be numbers greater than the current time. A little earlier, the townspeople go to a village with vegetables to replenish their supplies. With them goes Jade, and there again sees strange hallucinations. On top of that, he discovers unusual red rocks. He sketches everything he sees in the village, and Tabitha finds out about the place. She claims she remembers the place from dreams she had as a child. They arrive there, and Tabitha realizes that her fate was sealed. The woman was bound to get here. Sarah begins to hear the voice again, which informs her that Fatima has been kidnapped. The voice laughs at the fact that no one will be able to find her in time. Sarah tells Boyd about this, after which the townspeople begin searching for the woman. Soon the main characters realize that Elgin is somehow involved, and Boyd has no choice but to torture the guy. But in the end, Sarah does all the work for him. They find out where Fatima is and rush to the cellar. However, at that moment, a woman in a kimono is already giving birth. After that, a hatch in the cellar floor opens, and she goes down there. When the main characters arrive, They take Fatima back into the house. Boyd goes downstairs and witnesses the scene where the baby starts to grow very quickly and turns into the same monster they killed in the previous season. Meanwhile, Tabitha is walking with Julie. Suddenly, the woman sees a child beckoning them to follow her. They follow her and find a sad Victor in the bunker. He tells Tabitha that this is where he last saw his mother and sister. Tabitha then realizes that for some reason she remembers that day too. She tells her husband and Jade about this, after which they finally figure out what these mysterious numbers mean. Their sequence is notes. They go to the tree with the bottles and Jade plays the melody on the violin. Then the kids show up and suddenly Tabitha and Jade understand everything. It's a lullaby, and Ankui means remember. The two of them are reincarnations of people who have already been in this place. Tabitha is Victor's mom, and Jade is that man Christopher with his doll. And this is not their first reincarnation. They've been here since the beginning, and they're the parents of some of these kids. And the monsters are people who in the past have sacrificed their children for immortality. Tabitha asks her husband to give her some time to think. Jim is shocked by what he hears and comes to the overturned van. That's when his daughter comes running in and screams that she has to change history. Suddenly, the man in yellow also appears. By the voice, we realize that this is the same man Jim talked to on the radio in the first season, after which the man kills Jim. This is the end of the third season. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the like button. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.